Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jarad.
and we are the two gentlemen coming to you with great balls of fire. Jarad, how are you?
uh, Good for Jerry.
Mm,
But no, I'm okay. I've got an update though. I had in my saga with the wooden cutlery from last week.
yeah.
I've now, my crusade has moved now towards I went and got a coffee at 7-Eleven, and the lids are now paper
Mm,
board. I get it as well. Please don't think I'm against the environment or anything like that. But now my coffee tastes like it's come through a whole ream of paper, and now I can't get. I don't know. Like I'm just everything. It turns into paper mache as you're drinking it. Like I get it, but I don't know if it's functional. First world problems, I know, but yeah. So I've gone from getting a splinter in my lip last week from wooden cutlery to now having paper mache lids and paper tasting coffee. But I suppose it's something we have to get used to in this world. Yeah,
I think trees just have it out for you, Jarad.
I know. And it's written on the top of the lid. I was reading the lid as this is made purely by plants, and I'm like, plants. Now I'm gonna concrete everything in my house now. No more plants. Just kidding.
Look,
But
you said
yeah.
it's a first world problem, but it's not. It's a global problem. That's why we've got to think of these solutions. So, yeah, look, I think you should just take it out on somebody, like a vegan or something. Go punch a vegan. Not me, punch another vegan. But
Another vegan.
I think that's the only sensible way to deal with this, Jarad.
All right, no worries. Do you
Yep.
guys have a club I can go to and just find a random vegan? Or...
I'll ask Hannah. Don't punch
No,
Hannah.
I'm just being a sook. It's all good. It was my first coffee through a paper slash cardboard lid. It was different, but I'll get used to it, like we all
Look,
do. We'll adjust.
it's a fair problem, though. I try to do my best as well. And I bought this sugarcane wrap, which is an alternative to cling wrap,
Ah,
thinking,
okay.
oh, yeah, they've finally got a product on the market that, doesn't use copious amounts of plastic. And it was rubbish. It just didn't
Yeah,
work. It kept sticking to itself. And it was a good waste of money, I'll tell you that.
it was
Um,
probably more expensive.
oh, well, like probably three times the price. But I thought, look, I want to do the right thing, but we had to throw it out.
I
So
think a lot of people are in that position, mate. They want to do the right thing, yeah, and then it doesn't work. I'm in that, don't get me wrong. I'm having a little bit of having a little bit of sook in jest about these things, but I get it, and I think it's great, but it's got to be functional, I guess.
exactly, we're rushing products to market when they're not quite ready. And I
Mm.
think everyone wants it. I think we would all change tomorrow to, hydrogen fueled cars and whatever else if it all worked properly and it was readily available and appropriately priced. But at the moment, it's just too hard. But I guess someone's got to be the early adopter, right, to make these things viable in the first place. So ask millionaires, Jarad, who work in disability and homelessness. Us loaded
Mm.
people, we've got to be at the forefront, don't we?
Yes, yes, yeah. You got to start somewhere, don't you? Yeah, all good. Start with my coffee.
But it's hard to stay motivated sometimes when you are up against that sort of thing, isn't it? You're like, oh yeah, let's do something good. And you're like, oh, I just read about it and it turns out it's crap. And you look
Yeah.
at EVs, for example. Now, I want an electric vehicle as much as the next guy, but they're fraught with problems too.
Yeah.
Where do we get the lithium from? Do we exploit another developing nation and steal their resources for as cheap as we can get it? And, let people die in mines with terrible safety records. And what do we do with batteries when they've, reached the end of their life? Do we just chuck them in landfill like everything else? So there's so many
Mm.
questions, and it's hard to stay motivated in this life, isn't it? When you're like, oh, no matter what I do, it's the same result.
Yeah, it is. It's motivation is the key. Like if you feel like you're working hard to do something and it doesn't, you don't end up with a result in your mind, or like you said, your sugarcane cling wrap just turned into it was brittle or whatever and just broke or whatever it might be. You tried, you spent your money, you tried, you looked, you gave your time, and you ended up with a bust. And yeah, motivation is tough to keep in all aspects of life, and especially when it doesn't sort of doesn't work out the first time, or it just takes a bit of effort to get it done. I mean, look, think about the basic things that people have trouble get motivating for: exercise, eating
Mm.
right. You know, people want to exercise, people want to eat right, but eating right takes a bit of effort, and exercising takes a lot of effort. And when you got McDonald's right there on every corner, and the TV, you got 7 TVs in your house that have got every streaming service in the world. You don't want to get up and go for a walk. So, how do you stay motivated in everything? Like we've we've got reasons. We've all got reasons of why we go to work and why we exercise and why they're, but you got to keep them at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's that why, it's that reason that you're talking about. Once you can work that out, I think if you can keep that in the forefront of your mind, then life becomes a lot easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, I know of, I know of people that are doing work that they don't want to do, but they do it because of the money. You know, we need money to pay for living expenses. Um, if people didn't need that, well, then people would just be not working. There'd be
Mm.
there'd be a limited resource of people working because there's not many people. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's people out there doing jobs they want to do. I get that. And I'm one of them. I'm happy. But would I do it for free? I don't know. Maybe not as many hours. I don't know. Like that's the key. So money drives me to, to go to work. I'm lucky that I enjoy it, but money does drive me to go to work.
Look, I'm going to do something I normally don't do, and that's answer for somebody else. I think you would do it if you didn't get paid for it, Jarad. I think if you were a millionaire now, if you'd retired, if you'd sold that great idea of yours and you'd retired somewhere up the coast, you had your family with you, everything was good. I think in your spare time, you would probably get a van and drive around serving the homeless.
Okay. Thank you. And I probably would, but you said the key sort of thing. Once everything was okay, once you had your spare time, right now, I don't, it was really hard to organize a time to record this today, because of how busy I've been in the last week or so. And it's like I said to you, I was busy doing nothing. Like it was so to find the time to go and do that work as a volunteer, is the key,
Yeah.
so everything else has got to be in line, and that's where your motivation comes from. Obviously it's not money anymore. It's about, you know, the human side of things, and doing things for the community, and volunteering for somebody to help somebody. But I'm lucky at this point in time. I get to do that and feel good whilst in a paid job.
Yeah.
But there's an absolute massive amount of people that volunteer their time to do it. So their motivation is they're doing it outside their normal work hours. Maybe it's because they might be doing a job that they're not overly happy with, and to make their soul sing, they need to do something on the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
That's their motivation to do
Yeah.
that sort of stuff, and the extracurricular stuff. And we all do extracurricular stuff. So how do we stay motivated for that? I get up every morning or go every afternoon to make sure my kids are doing sport, and got their study, doing extra stuff with their study. And every weekend I'm busy, and my dad says to me, "You're always on the go," but I wouldn't have it any other way. Like to see them. My motivation is my kids, having a good time. So every day we're faced with what keeps us going. Like it gets me off the lounge, I guess. Um, you know, it's you'd be faced with a few different ones. Like you have to you've got to go through the homeschooling side of things, and you've got to keep your boys busy for a lot of the hours that I don't have to do with the girls because they're busy at school. So how do you motivate yourself to keep going with that? The educate. I mean, it's probably a silly question because you want your kids to be educated, but I'm sure some days you'd wake up and go, last thing I want to do is trigonometry.
Look, it's trickier than you think. I just want to go back to what you said. I thought you said some great things, but essentially it was your children that motivate you. And that's something outside of yourself. You're not doing that for your own glory. You're doing it so you can have a great life for your children. You want them to play sports so that they've got friends, etc. So I
Mm.
think that's a really lovely thing, Jared. In my case, it's very similar. I want my kids to have a good life. It's very challenging though. And, I'm not going to lie. I'd love to say, oh yeah, I've got this curriculum. It's all set out. We wake up at this time and it's so simple. It's not. It really is
Mm.
a challenge. And you said something else, which was it gets me off the lounge. That's one of the biggest problems for anybody, which is getting up.
Yeah.
Um, this morning, I got up at about 7 and I probably was awake, 10 minutes before that.
Yeah.
But getting up, the action of getting up took me a bit of
Yeah.
time. So just to let everybody know, it is a Sunday. So, Sunday mornings, not everyone's motivated to get up, but it's actually a beautiful day here in Sydney.
Yeah.
Really, I should have jumped out of bed, but I didn't because I was comfortable. I was warm. And I
Okay.
think that's part of the problem. So you said getting up off the lounge, and yeah, that's a tough thing. It's really easy to just go with wherever you are because you're comfortable. You've settled into something, even if it's bad.
Mm.
Even if you've got a gambling addiction or a drug addiction or a fast food addiction, it's just easier, or a phone addiction. It's just easier to just keep doing that than
Mm.
challenge yourself and to change the circuitry in your brain, change your habits. So I think comfort has really got a lot to do with it. But going back to my kids, motivating them with the homeschooling thing, it's really tricky because we've raised them from a very young age to be independent and to think for themselves, to express themselves. So they don't always agree with us. But what I have seen, which is very relieving, is that as kids get older, their sense of reason becomes so much better. And, my 13-year-old who wasn't really into a lot of stuff when he was younger is just now so, oh, yeah, I'll give that a go.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he was behind on, we can catch up on so quickly. So that motivates me now, just seeing that light at the end of the tunnel going, wow, okay, so there's a lot of challenges, but you just take your time and you will get there in the end.
Yeah. So that can be, seeing something is quite motivating. Yeah. So seeing a result or seeing the opportunity of a result is very, very motivating, isn't it? And I was just thinking when you were talking about getting up when you were saying and how it is difficult to get out of that normal, they call it a rut. I wouldn't say you can call it a rut, but you just get out of that habit. You could lay in bed for another half an hour or an hour, but eventually you got to get up at some point. So I guess it's that way our minds are wired, whether we're just like, oh, I'm just going to get up now because I'm going to have to get up in 10 minutes or 20 or half an hour, whatever. Some people are like, I'm going to take every minute I can in that bed, but for me, like I've actually just started swimming, laps.
Yep.
And I think I've said it in a previous one. And I actually don't want to go there at the time when I'm driving there. Like I'm like, oh, got to get in my trunks, got to go in the water, got to get dry, got to have a shower, all just to. But when I'm swimming, I'm like, what are you whinging? What are you worried about? So that part motivates me to get past the whingy sooky part of like, oh, I've got to go in, I've got to do this, I've got to go through this. I can't just like clip my fingers and I'm in the pool, So yeah, I use what's going to happen in the near future to motivate me to get past that point. So like if you're on the lounge, you got to look at what's going to happen in half an hour if you get your backside off the lounge or get out of bed and get dressed and go off and do what you're supposed to do. You're going to, you've got to use that to motivate you because we're not all going to have massive things to do every day, but you got to be able to use those small things to get you going. But yeah, you're
exactly.
Right. Getting going is a tough starting that engine or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. It's hard to start a literal engine in the cold sometimes.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, you'd have to warm up your car before you could drive it, right? Remember
the old cars that dad used to drive, the old Valiants, and you had to have a choke. You had to choke it and start the car at like 5 a.m. and to leave at 7. No. The car would be running for 20 minutes in the driveway. Like,
But yeah,
wow.
you exaggerate, but it was pretty much like that. You had to think in advance about how to get this going, and we're the
Yeah.
same. We're that old engine, especially as we get older.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to work out. It just come to me then. Like I remember all little tricks, Dad used to use. He was a bit of he's a very mechanical minded guy, and he knew a lot about the cars. And whenever there was a problem, he'd fix it. There'd be no mechanics. He'd, backyard mechanics sort of thing. Those cars, he could do that. And there'd be all these little tricks to get the car going. We've got the same thing, as long as we have our shower at this time, or get up and go straight to whatever we might be, just to get the parts get the engine cranked over. We know it because it's our engine essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Jared, do you give yourself tough love in any situations? When you don't want to get up and go to the pool, do you ever, perhaps metaphorically speaking, slap yourself in the face and go, just snap out of it, just get up, you little wuss?
Yeah. I think so. I think I don't sort of actively think I talk to myself like that, but in my head. But yeah, you sort of have, like, I do things like, all right, you're going to get up in 10 seconds, and in your head you count to 10, and you just know, like, you build yourself up for that. Or when you're under a warm shower, all right, I got 20 more. Like, you could stay here for 2 hours, but you know that the water bill is going to cost a lot. So, all right, you got 20 seconds to enjoy this, and then you're out, because it's always tough to get out of a hot shower in the winter and get dry, because you get cold again. So yeah, unless you're lucky and have heated floors and heated all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I do talk to myself in that way. Like, I sort of give myself a bit of a time limit, I guess. Tough love in regards to sort of, I give myself a bit of tough love if I know that I've done something, like I've eaten wrong, or like I succumb to that temptation of instead of buying a coffee, I buy a coffee and a muffin.
Yeah, yeah.
And then before I buy it, I'm like, no, 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 and then I buy it, and then I eat it, and then I get remorse straight away.
Yeah.
And then you start telling yourself off, and you're like, oh, there's nothing I can do now. You've eaten it, you idiot. But yeah, I suppose I do. But I have my little ways. What about yourself?
Look, I do, especially when I'm reluctant to have a cold shower. So you
Oh
said it,
yeah,
how hard it is to get out of a warm shower in winter. Think about getting into a cold shower in winter. That's
that's
hard. But, there are
brutal.
times where I just get in there and I don't give myself the time to doubt. I just turn the tap on and just let it hit me. So that keeps me going. And just like I've said before, just having one win a day, and that's a good win, defeating my enemy, which is comfort. It's too seductive, comfort. So to
Yeah,
be able to get out of bed, wet your head, and get really, really cold in winter is a real challenge. And when you can get through that sort of stuff, you just get more confidence in life. Erica has cold bars, and there was a period where she was like, "Oh, they're not getting cold enough. My body's warming the water too much." So she was putting ice packs in there. But what she does is she has a playlist, which it's motivating music for her.
yeah.
Sadly, Eye of the Tiger isn't on the playlist, but
No, that's
so it should be illegal, really, to not have that on your
actually
playlist.
it's not a motivating playlist. Anyway,
Yeah, but you know what? It works for her. So she's beating a pretty big enemy. She's slaying a dragon every day doing that.
yeah,
Now, that's huge, and it gives you a lot of confidence in life that you can take on anything.
yeah. And isn't things like outside things, like you mentioned music, like they can really motivate. Obviously the kids motivate us to do things, but on a smaller scale, music, like you see people at the gym with the headphones in, and they're running on the treadmill, or they're out running, and you're like, I think a lot of the times it's probably the same songs and the same music that they're listening to. It's just they know that when they get to that point, they need that little kick, or they found their little niche, and I think that's pretty cool as well. And that's a mindset thing. That keeps them motivated for that small period to get up that hill, or that small 5 minute to 7 minute period when they're running, that they know that they struggle. They know that song will come on, or that motivational speaker or whatever it might be that they've got in their earphones will get them through that tough period where they just want to stop. So outside noise no pun, nothing intended. But outside noise can be good if it's the right noise for you.
Yeah. All right, Jarad, I want to ask you a question that you're probably not ready for. I just thought of it then.
Oh, good, good.
Who is talking in your head, Jarad?
What voice?
Yeah, when you're motivating yourself, what do you
Yeah.
think that is? Like, we don't understand consciousness, but what's your take
Yeah.
on it?
You know, I don't know. I like to think it's me, but I don't think it's my voice. I don't know what I sound like, I listen back to this and I'm like, oh, you sound like that,
Who's that guy?
It doesn't sound like what's in my head.
Who's that guy talking to Kiwi?
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, it's all right. It sounds like me. He's really smart like me. But yeah, it's that's a question. I can sit here for the next minute and 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 carry on, but I literally don't know, mate. I don't know.
Mm.
I like to think it's me, but it doesn't sound like me. Um, yeah, that's a good question, and I'm gonna have to go and Google it.
Who is in my head?
It's in my head. Yeah, that'll be a good one. Yeah. White jackets turn up.
Yeah.
The
Jarad, can you
monitor.
point to them? Are they in the room with you now?
Yeah, how many? Yeah. Yeah, no, good question, and I'm stumped, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to any of our listeners who are tuning into this one, what do you think? Do you think we have a higher self? I don't know how the brain works. I'm not a neuroscientist. I'm not even a philosopher. I'm just a guy sitting in his pajamas at the moment talking to Jarad. But I like to think we have a higher self. I like to think that there are levels of consciousness. We have, thoughts are just bolts of electricity. We have different wavelengths, some more pure, for want of a better word, than others. So perhaps the, our more higher quality thinking is done at a higher level of consciousness. And there's a part of us that exists that's completely untouched. I know this is crazy and perhaps spiritual, or, I probably will get the knock on the door shortly from the guys in the white van. But hey, maybe there is a part of you that is so special and so untouched, whatever you want to call it. Some people might call it the soul or the spirit, but we're pretty amazing, right? As humans, that we can change that, that we can turn the ship around, as we've said many times before. And I'm just thinking about my motivations personally. I've struggled a lot lately because, I've swung big in life and I've missed, I've struck out, except in the game of life, there is no out until you die. Like you can just keep swinging unless it's something that's limited by time, such as a sport. Even if I did develop all the skills now, I couldn't become Wimbledon champion. Once you get to a certain age, you lose your athleticism. That's just how it is. But for everything else, there is no expiration date, is there?
No, you can keep going. You can keep going. It's not there's nothing there to stop you from swinging, no matter what situation you're in, I would imagine.
So, I've told you many times before, listeners, that my big dream is to be a published novelist. And that's increasingly difficult. There's just, especially in the economy that we've got now, being a new writer, being a nobody, it's very hard to get any work published. So to stay motivated, sometimes it can be really tricky. And I'm like, oh, what am I doing this for? Like, I should just chuck it all in and get a real job and just make money for the family. And so many times Erica's just pulled me down off the ledge and said, we've got everything we need. You're like, what more do you want? I mean, everything's complete nonsense. It's completely unnecessary. Like we've got a roof over our heads. We've got money coming in. We've got wonderful kids. And I just realized how ungrateful I was. It was like, I want something else. We're like, well, what do you want? And there's a group of people called the Bushmen of the Kalahari who live in Africa. And they say that people who live indoors, something goes wrong with them. And when you talked about getting up off the lounge, I thought, yeah, that's about right. There is something wrong with us. We're just so used to this box and then filling this box with stuff and then trying to get a nicer box to prove to people how good we are. Instead of just living our lives doing cool stuff that we really want to do. And I think of this story this little fable that I heard when I was younger, and it was, some rich tourist visiting a Mexican village and saying, oh, wow, you've got a great life here. And the Mexican asks the guy, oh, what do you do? And he says, oh, I've got this job where I make all this money. He goes, oh, okay, what do you do it for? Oh, so one day I can do this, what you're doing. And
Yeah,
it
right.
reminds me of my situation. It's like, I'm already doing what I want to be doing.
Yeah,
I just don't have the outside trappings of success. And I forget that sometimes. And I just need to motivate myself by remembering what's important in life. So that's how I get going, Jarad. And to keep going, to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, to know that there is some sort of worldly success, which I know shouldn't be the goal, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to win Wimbledon. If you're a tennis player, you don't just get out there to hit a ball. You've got a goal, and to have a
yeah,
goal like publishing a book and having a bestseller is, I think, a totally noble thing. And what motivated me was amazing things do happen in life. Like, we have had miracles. Like, did you ever think you'd have the two daughters you have? You don't picture that.
Mm.
And when I think
No.
about my kids, I'm like, wow, like we struggled to conceive our second child. And when that
Mm.
happened, it was like a miracle. So
Yeah,
sometimes it's nice to just draw on those really nice moments in your life and go, wow, things did change for me.
yeah. I think, yeah, when you look back on things and when not necessarily look back too far, but like, yeah, you're right. You didn't, 10 years from, or 10, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been thinking, I'll be living where I was living. I'll be, father of two girls. I'd be, doing, a job that I wanted to do, having the friends that I have, having the wife that I have, all that stuff didn't really occur to me. So when you look back on that, that's relatively new history. Like, the achievement of that keeps me sort of going for, okay, what's ahead, So, yeah, I'm never on those times I do take things for granted. I just have to, I just have to look at what I got. And, by no means am I on top of a mountain with a 24 karat gold mansion. I'm in living a life that I'm happy to be living, well within my means. I'm not trying to, for me personally, like, it sort of struck a chord, like when you said, oh, we live in a box and we fill it up with stuff, we get another box that's bigger and fill that up, and it just sort of, for me, sometimes I look at things and I'm like, well, do I really need that? Or do I want that? And, that helps me make a decision.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not sure where I'm going with this, but it's just, yeah, I look at what I got and I'm happy. I'm not taking it for granted. I try not to. And one of those times when you do, it doesn't take much to get you back on course.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I shared a story before about, how I almost killed my son at a campsite, telling him to cross this road without me looking.
Yeah.
And whenever I think back to that moment, I'm just like, geez, just be happy you've got two kids.
Yeah.
You lost it. Like, in that moment, if he'd done what you wanted him to do, you would have lost him.
Yeah.
And it would have changed your life completely. How much more do you want out of life? So when I think of that moment, it's like, it just brings me back to earth. It really grounds me. It's like, okay, sorry, I'm asking for too much.
Yeah. No, that's a, I don't know if the word humbling experience is right, but I guess an experience of, like, what could have happened would have changed the course of history for you and your family. Like, and obviously you didn't want it to go that direction. And that's to be grateful for what you got when something like that can occur. And people have gone through those, every parent have probably done something like that where it's been a close call or could have been a close call or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's really got to make everyone sort of sit up and go, well, look what I do have, and look what, don't, this is enough to motivate me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about this podcast, Jarad, and, we haven't set the world on fire. We're not exactly Joe Rogan or anything like that. We don't have a Spotify deal.
Not yet, no.
We're two guys just sharing a friendship, and I feel motivated by, a single comment here and there. Like when you tell me that, a guy from basketball came up to you and said, when's the next episode?
Yeah.
That's like, wow, someone's getting something out of this. And that keeps me going. Just that one person.
Yeah. it's pretty awesome. That for this, yeah, things like that do motivate me. Actually, yeah, it's funny. I did run into somebody who I played basketball with, and this is scary. 22 years ago,
Yeah.
23 years ago, I played basketball with him, and I ran into him at the kids' athletics, little athletics. Well, he's like, Jarad. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you don't remember me? I said, oh, I do. And then all I had to do was see him in a certain way. And I was like, oh, how you going, buddy?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, how's the podcast going? And I'm like, I had no idea this guy's like, this guy's from my past, that far from my past. And again, it was a passing, like we didn't go to school together.
Yeah.
We played 1 or 2 seasons of basketball, which would have been, so in total, I probably saw him 30 times for a matter of an hour, hour and a half. And we're playing basketball. Like there was no sort of friendship outside or anything like that. And just to sort of hear him ask about it, I went, oh wow, it motivated me like that. Yeah, it motivates me now to keep going. So yeah, that's enough for me for this part of my life to keep going. So yeah, really happy. So I guess really happy to hear from people whenever I see them about it. And that it's the reason why we started, part of the reason why we started doing this was, just to share a friendship with people and share our experiences with people, and to know that some people are listening. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely given me some extra motivation, Jarad.
Yeah. It was good to catch up with him too. So hopefully if he's listening, he knows who he is. But it was awesome to see someone from that long ago. And like I said, we didn't have other than playing basketball together, but yeah, we both had other things going in life or whatever, as we've discussed, but it was good to talk to him and catch up with him.
Oh, that's awesome. And to everybody else listening to this, I hope you've got something in your life that can motivate you, something that can inspire you from your own life. It doesn't have to be the Rocky soundtrack, just something that you've done, something that you can go back to that tells you that, yep, I'm on the right track. Just got to keep going. And look, us two, the two gentlemen, we're here with you. We're going through our own struggles, as you know, and we're just trying to make it through life and try to be as positive as we can. So thank you again for joining us. Please reach out to us on our socials, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those different ones. We'll be back every week for as long as we can be to share our lives with you and this wonderful friendship. So thanks, Jarad.
Thank you, mate.